All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. I appreciate everybody's time today. I found out, and you guys probably experienced this, that most people didn't know about this. I guess we didn't communicate it very well through the dealer newsletter. It was kind of buried in there. So we sent out an email yesterday. I know Melissa was calling a bunch of people too. And then there was another email sent out this morning. So in one of those ways, it looks like you guys found out about it and were able to join us. So we appreciate your time. What we wanted to do today is just go over a few of the things related to the new version of the software. We have the dealer event coming up in October 26th through the 28th. A lot of what we'll be discussing there will have to do with this new version of the software, which will have new features for the practice management. It'll be version 18, but it has a totally redesigned EHR. So we wanted to kind of give you guys a sneak peek as our resellers. We thought that would be beneficial, kind of see what we'll be talking about at the meeting. And that'll also give you a chance to kind of see this and know what's coming down the pike. And, also, like always, we love to hear feedback and whatnot. So everybody's muted currently. There's a questions part to go to webinar. So if you would like to use that, feel free to do that. Some of you have already done that before we even got started, really, so that's perfectly fine. Also, there's an option to raise your hand. If you know how to do that, you're welcome to do that. We probably won't take any questions though till the end, but we'll certainly allow some time for questions. Now, what we're going to do is to show the redesigned EHR and then just a few of the features related to the new version of the software. When the new version of the software comes out, we'll train on it at the dealer meeting. We'll also do some end user webinars that we always do to show those new features and go through all of them so people can see those, get an idea of what they do. They have a better idea of whether or not it's a version of the software they'd like to buy or upgrade to. So anyway, we'll go ahead and we'll start with the stuff related to the practice management first. And there's really just three features I'm going to show you today. This webinar will be relatively quick for what we're doing today. I think it probably by default sets them for like an hour or whatever. Depending on questions or whatnot, I anticipate we'll be out of here in a half an hour or less. So know your time is valuable, so I just want to go through these very quickly. One of the things we have is in a patient record. Now when you go into an individual and look at their record, whether it's an existing patient or a new patient, there's this new icon here. That is an address verification icon, so it's connected to the Postal Service. You click on it, it will go in and look at it for you. Now, one of the things that the Postal Service does is they submit everything back in all caps. They also do not include any punctuation in theirs, and they always have a 9-digit zip code. Okay, so with that being said, you don't have to replace it. So the option is to replace it or not. So I could look at this right now and say, you know what? Hey, this is all the same. I don't like the caps. I want to keep it. So we could say no, and I'll just leave it. But at least you know by looking at it and matching everything up that it does match and it is the right address. Okay, I can see that right here. Or I could say, you know what, yeah, I want to have it exactly the way they have it, which is perfectly fine. You could hit yes, and it will switch the address here to this address here. Okay, so if you would like to just look at it and make the changes yourself and say, hey, you know what, I'm going to add, I don't want all the caps, but I do want the 4-digit zip code extension at the end of it, 4610. You could do that. Type in here, do the little dash 4610. Okay, so some different things that are available to you, just kind of depending on what you want to do when it comes to the address. So just really comes down to preference, what you like, or what the office, what the client likes. But this was something that one of the dealers actually requested, and so we put that in here. At their request. That address is not just here or this verification tool is not just in here in the patient. It's in other parts of the software as well. So if you're setting up a referring provider or an employer or different things, insurance, stuff like that, that is there too. So it's basically any place that has an address, you have the option to verify the address. Okay, so it's a pretty simple thing. You don't have to do it, of course, like I said, but it's there for those that would like to make sure they've got the correct address in there. And of course, it doesn't know that Joanne Smith is at that address. That's not what it's verifying. It's just verifying that this is indeed a real address, and this is how the Postal Service has it in their system. As an example, if I were to go into an individual, all these other ones, okay, this is actually our address. I knew it was real, but most of this other stuff is just fake. So if I went in here to somebody that didn't have a real address and click on it, it's just kind of come up with a different type of thing. Now, we are probably going to change this message just because it says error and it makes it look like there's something wrong. I don't like the term error, so that'll probably be changed to something different, but you get the idea. If it's not a real address, it can't verify it. It just says, hey, we can find that address. So it's kind of the way it's done a little bit differently there. So that's the first feature. The second feature that we have is an area in the activities section of the software, and it's called the write-off wizard. Okay, the write-off wizard is just what it sounds like. It gives you the ability to basically find people that you might want to write off their balances for. Give you an example. There's a few examples I can think of. Some offices have gotten it down. I've talked to offices that kind of have it down to a science where they know exactly how much it costs them to send out a statement. And they say, you know what? Hey, if it's going to cost us more than this amount just for the effort or whatever, $2, $5, whatever it is, it's not worth it to me to do that. I'm just going to go ahead and write that off. Some people say, I don't want to write that off because in the future they might have other balances that are accumulated that make it worth it. And it's up to you, however you want to do it. And again, I say you, obviously your clients, but you have the ability to come in here and put in some of these filters. I'm going to say it's $5. And what's cool is, one of the things that's cool is it comes in and puts it over here. So it's basically giving you in layman's terms what your filters actually mean. And then I'm going to say, hey, I only want to find things that are marked do not bill patient. So if they have something that is not supposed to be billed to them, because that's how it's set up, those are the people. I don't, if it's, if they owe it, but it's marked not to bill them, meaning the program thinks it owes them, all the insurances have paid, but yet it's marked do not bill insurance or do not bill patient, you can do that. And so you're going to click view charges. In our case, it just has this one charge here, and it says, hey, this is what the remainder amount is. This is what the total was, all that stuff, and it tells you all the insurances have paid. So we have, primary, secondary, and tertiary insurance. They might not have all of those, but again, if they don't have a tertiary insurance, it'll automatically mark this as paid for us so that we know, hey, all the insurances, whatever all of them are, whether that's just a primary or primary, secondary, and tertiary, they're done. So this remainder amount, it technically falls to the patient, but this particular charge is marked do not bill patient. So what do we do? How do we know that that is even in there? We've never really had a good way to do that, other than you could run a report and then go into the ledger and find that, then make the write-off. Okay, with the new version, easy, come in here, put in that information, it would find all of them, decide what kind of write-off code you want to use. So we're going to say just it's a courtesy discount, and then we process the write-off. And then it'll automatically go in and put a $4.50 write-off against this charge in this person's ledger using this code. Okay, if you'd said, oh, you know what, I want other stuff too, basically anybody charge that's that, different kind of thing, you have that option too. Obviously there's not any, but that's kind of what it is. So I want to find only, here, we'll change this dollar amount, see if we can find some more. Okay, so there's a few other options. So they're not only charges that that shouldn't be billed to the patient, but we added an extra $5, and so same concept. So you might say, you know what, hey, I want to find everyone, regardless of the dollar amount, that has everything's been paid off, the patient's responsible, all the insurances are done, and yet it's mark do not bill the patient. So even if it's $100, if I'm not supposed to bill the patient, I need to find that. So find that. Here's those three, and we could write that. So even though this is $108.25, if it's marked do not bill patient, well then we still want to write it off, and we could come over here, click process write off, and again it's going to put a write off in the amount of the remainder here against this charge, so the balances on these particular charges will be 0. Okay, so just a cool little feature there. There's probably a couple little things that will be changed on it before we get it totally released and everything, but kind of gives you an idea of what it is here. So we have a few wizards that are very similar to this, like the late fees is similar, where you put in your filters up at the top. It'll list you the charges. You can decide what you want to do, and it'll auto-calculate late fees. The collections module is similar too, where you can put in different filters. It'll list everything, and it'll say, okay, here's the people that meet that criteria. Let's send those people to collections and whatnot. So all of those are in activities. If you don't want to do one of them, you find it and you're like, oh, you know what, William Grant, I don't want to write his off. You can double click on that, and it'll leave him out of the group when you go to process the auto write-offs. Okay. So that's feature number 2 that I want to show you today. The third feature I want to show you is also in the activities, and this is kind of what I was talking about too, by the way. These 3 things are the filter, or our similar setup to this write-off, the write-off wizard, late fees and collections. But the other option here is this insurance aging drill down. And essentially what the insurance aging drill down is the option that I didn't actually click on it. Whoops. It's basically like a interactive or like a live aging report. Okay. So whereas before, and you still can obviously do this, but you can print out a aging report, a primary aging report. It'll list you all the insurances underneath each insurance. It'll list you each patient underneath each patient. It'll list each claim underneath each claim. It'll list each transaction on that claim. Okay, and what the balance is for that and whatnot. That's really what this is too. It's just in a live kind of interactive way of doing things. So you can see across the top I've got my different radio buttons, primary, secondary, and tertiary. So I'm going to leave it as primary for what I'll show you, but I'll click over to secondary real fast. You can see that it refreshes and only shows that. Click to tertiary, again, it'll refresh and show that. Okay. If you don't want to see all of the charges, you can get rid of them. So if you say, you know what, I only want to see the stuff that's super old, 120 days plus, you can uncheck these other boxes, and the only stuff that'll show on here are those charges that are 120 days or older. Okay. So, but down here it will give you the different totals for each column. If I click on Blue Cross Blue Shield, the little plus sign, for example, it's going to show me each individual underneath there. Okay, you can see it pulls it up over here. Here's the information for Blue Cross Blue Shield since I clicked on it. Here's the information related to the patient that I clicked on here. So because James Davis is highlighted, if I clicked on William Grant, again, it switches that and gives us William Grant's information. So here again are the totals for James Davis. Okay. If I click on the plus sign again, it's going to show me all the charges underneath there. And then here's what claim each charge is on. Then it's going to sort it by claim number. And then the billing that they're part of, the date, how old it is. Okay, so here's, these are 115 days old, and so on. So you have all these different options: description, fees, remainders, provider. If you click on one of these related that has a claim number next to it, okay, this first one didn't, so you notice there's no information down here. Click on one with a claim number, then it's gonna refresh. Hopefully here, we'll try that. Oh, did it a second ago. If I double click, it will take me to the ledger. So double clicking, and it'll take you to the billing that was specific for that charge. Okay, so here's the stuff that was for that. So like down here was the office visit. This is the one that I double clicked on. But let's go back there and see what. Again, this is the fun stuff about. This is alpha testing, still version of it. So figure that out. Collapse them again and redo it and see what we got here. Okay. So here's the stuff related to the claim. This is a new feature too, where you have you're able to put a note. This is a claim specific note. It's in the claim section. So before we've had the ability to put a note for the patient. We've had the ability to put a note for the charge. We've had the ability to put a note for the billing. But we've never had the ability to put a note specifically on the claim. So this is a claim note. As a matter of fact, if you went to your claims list, double-clicked on the claim and opened it up, there would be a tab. The tab that has the billing information on it has a new field. That's the note field. It's the claim note field. And it would show this. So you can see that I'm on claim number 57. The note is here. If I clicked on this other charge for claim number 57, the note stays the same. Okay, here I click on it again. It stays the same. As soon as I click on number 60, for example, this charge that's on claim number 60, the note's gone. Okay, because I'd have never made a note for claim number 60. Okay. But again, if I go back to claim number 57, there it is, and we're good to go as far as that goes. So this is all that information, again, that you would need potentially to kind of go through and find not find, but call an insurance company and follow up with them. So a lot of people use the insurance agent report to do that. That's perfectly fine. This is just another way to do it. That was a cool little feature. So. And especially the ability now to put in the claim note there so that people can look at this later on, follow up and see what's been done based on that specific claim, and not necessarily based on anything else. So again, all these things over here that are blue are hyperlinks. So if I wanted to go into claim number 57 as an example, I click on it. This is what I was talking about in the billing tab, where that claim note section is there now, where you can see it. Okay. So any of these things you click on, and it'll take you to the insurance information screen, for example, to make any edits or whatever you'd like to do there. Okay. All right. I'm going to jump over to the EHR now. Those are the three features I wanted to just show today. Again, this is just a sneak peek sort of thing. We're not going over everything, just a few of the things. And we're going to talk about the EHR features and kind of show you the new design of it. I mean, that's the biggest thing, is just how it was. Probably some of you are very familiar with the way the EHR was. Maybe some of you aren't as familiar, but the old system was a grid where you had your yes, no, not applicable boxes. You checked those boxes and basically populated the note based on that, where a window might pop up for you to type stuff in and whatnot. This is done a little bit differently. We felt like, just based on the feedback we got over time from the people that were using it, from the dealers, from the users, there's a few people that really liked our old way, but there's a lot of people that felt like it was maybe a little too cumbersome, a little too complicated, too much clicking and whatnot. And so we revamped it, and we'll show that to you here in just a minute. Before we do that, I want to touch on a couple of things in the setup. So in the setup, you've got this is a section that we had before. This is kind of the new section that we've created now. So if we come in here, we'll have these different templates set up in here, and this is essentially what it now looks like. You have the ability to give it a name, obviously, and a default chief complaint. You can put it in a description, and then you have the ability to create your own header. Okay, this is something that can go at the top of the note, the encounter, and you can double click on it. For example, you can come in here and you can import, copy and paste maybe their logo, change, add in lines, do different fonts or whatnot. Yeah, you can have a specific header to describe that specific template. That's why each template has the ability to do its own. So this is this template. So if there's something that you want to give the name of title of the template where they can see it, or yeah, so whatever your ideas for this, it could be what you're doing. For example, when I went to my endocrinologist, I got the encounter, kind of the header of the encounter that I got from the very first time I went there was different from my follow-up visits. So this allows you to do that kind of thing and create as many. Maybe the logo's the same on all of them, but maybe you You say, hey, this is a annual physical, and it says that, and that way when they get a copy of it, they see what this is and know exactly what it is or whatnot. So you can totally do that, and that will show up there at the top of it. Down here at the bottom are your different template contents, which we're calling sections. Each of these sections, are going to be something that you can add to the template as you're going along. So we can see in here that they can be marked required, or they can be marked optional. To switch them back and forth, you just simply click on it. Okay, so you say, oh, that one's going to be required. And when we say required, it doesn't actually like make you do it, but you'll see when we get to the actual encounter in a little bit, it'll just display it with a red circle with a checkbox in it. And then, whereas the optional ones are just like a white circle. So you'll see that in a minute, so you can kind of know which ones are kind of the more important ones as far as that goes. Over here are the available sections, so you can add them over here. If you want to remove, you can remove them and put them back over. But take a look at a couple of them here to kind of give you an idea of how they're set up and what they look like. Go ahead and look at this one here in the financial. Here it is. So this gives you a little bit of an idea of what the default note looks like. What this, and we'll actually pull this up when we get to it, and you can see it. But we can see up here at the top, it's just these are fields that are going to be pulled directly from the patient file. So when we pull up the note, and again, this probably doesn't really have anything to do with what we're doing. This is just kind of, we're playing around, showing you stuff, but it'll pull this into the note automatically without us having to do anything. It's automatically going to pull whoever it is. If we pull up and do an encounter for Nelson Phelps for me, then it's just going to say Nelson Phelps. It's going to say, Caucasian and not Hispanic or Latino, and then English, and that's just what it would say. I'll just pull that automatically as part of it. So there's a bunch of different fields like that you can add in. As a matter of fact, if we come in here, and this is kind of where we build it. We can type in text, or we can come over here and insert our different notes. If we hit the little down arrow here, we can do the notes that maybe were created previously, because it'll still use the same notes that were used in our last in the original EHR version. So if people are already using the EHR, they can still use all of those notes, or they can create additional ones. Or they can come in here, and these are like the fields that we pulled, where it's the name and age, ethnicity, all that stuff. But any of these different things you can pull in here, whereas this one, for example, is a note. Okay, this is the number one. So you kind of tell the difference where it gives us the little double arrow things on each side. What's that called? A chevron. The chevrons on each side. Double, that means it's a field that's automatically going to populate, whereas these other ones are going to pop up with questions or promptings where we can answer questions or type stuff in or whatnot. Okay, so we'll get to, and you'll see how it actually works in just a minute, but kind of want to show you that. Yes. And then we also have the option to click all normals, and this is something you can type in, or again, when it comes up with the options that you'll see in a little bit, you'll have the option to either say, hey, I want to kind of fill out this part, or I want to just click all normals, and this populates whatever you have in here will populate in that part of the note instead. And then up here at the top, we have the option to mark a specific session as persistent, and what that means is once that has been filled out, the information that you filled out on that will move from one encounter to the next. You certainly have the option to edit it if you need to, if things change, but maybe everything stays the same and something changes, briefly, a little thing changes. A good example of that would be like family history. So in the past, we didn't have the ability to, in the actual encounter itself, to do that. So we could say, hey, here's all the family history for this individual, but that could certainly change. Somebody has seen a doctor over years and years. I mean, I'm recently diabetic, so like in the last year and a half, a year and a half ago, but I'll be seeing an endocrinologist, off and on for the rest of my life. Well, is the family history going to change over time? Yeah, potentially. Could one of my parents get cancer and then now that's something I need to add to the family history? Yeah, absolutely. But in 6 months from now when I see the endocrinologist, is it going to have changed? Probably not. Probably not. But, in 10 years from now, will it have changed? Yes, quite possibly, So, yeah, and so then once you make the change to it, because it's marked persistent, then that one will move forward from that point on. So if I said, okay, now, for the last 5 years, this is how it's been. Now, between my last visit and this one, my dad was diagnosed with cancer. We're going to go ahead and make that change, add that piece to the family history, and then automatically that one, because that is the persistent, it pulls the most recent one across. It's just going to keep pulling that one across. So it's a cool little thing in there too. Surgical history is a good example of that as well. You're sure you could have a surgery, between visits at some point, and that could change, but for the most part, that is going to be the same across, one visit to the next. So cool little thing in there also. So go back here, and then we'll do this other one. I'll give you one other example. This one's cool too because this is has a table built into it. So we built this into the actual note itself. So when we came in here, double click, you have the ability to do so much stuff here, whether it's the fonts and colors, the bolding. Then you also have the ability to do tables, the way your paragraphs formatted, all that stuff you can do in here. In this particular case, we did the table and set this up, and they could come down here and they can just start, typing stuff in here once they get in there. And I'll show you how that is, but just want to show you some of the different unique things that were available in this here as well. So let's see here. Okay. All right, that's all I'm going to show you here on this screen, but we're going to go ahead and go into an actual new encounter, and I'll show you what it actually looks like as we're doing it. Just jump to the patient list this way. Let's see. And of course, you won't have new encounter and new encounter 2, but this is just, again, since this is alpha testing stuff that we're doing. We'll use this template here. Again, this template, it's not a legitimate template from the standpoint of the information that we have. It doesn't necessarily apply to the name of it. But so you can see here, we've got our chief complaint that was defaulted in here. Over here, we've got the visit dates, the chart number. So over here in the providers, we got our care team here, and this is, you have the ability to change this. So for example, if you come over here and click like adjust care team, it will come up with all these different people, and we could say, okay, that person is part of it, and the other people aren't, and so you could save it, and it would make those changes. Over here, it also tells you whether or not this person's is licensed to be able to sign off on a note or not. So you kind of see some of that stuff. This little icon here is kind of designed to show that. You kind of see that it's different. Nicholas is different than the other ones with this little circle, depending on how big your monitor is, I guess. It will depend on how well you can see that on this demo. But here is that header part of our template that we created. Again, this is something that can be different for each individual template that we created here. And then down here at the bottom is the actual information for the actual template itself. So, or the encounter. So you can see it all the way down here. We're going to actually do a couple things. So this is what it looks like by default. Currently, you've got your medications down here at the bottom. Then you have your allergies down here at the bottom, kind of in a table, kind of cool. But if we wanted to actually add stuff in, we've got our different sections. Okay, and this is where I was talking about the required versus optional fields. These little white circles are optional. And again, they're all technically optional. Again, it's not going to keep you from saving anything because of it. all it's doing is it's giving you a visual indicator that, hey, these are the ones that really should be done. You'll notice as we do them, and we'll do a couple of them here, that they'll change. So they'll move from a red circle with a white check mark to a green circle with a white check mark. So go ahead and click on this one. This is the one that we did before. We did these two. These are the two that I showed you, the financial history problems and the CWA. So we'll go ahead and do those so you can kind of see, since those are the ones that we looked at before. I'll go ahead and click all normal. Okay. All it did is change the checkbox. I didn't have to do anything else, but if we scroll down, we can see that the all normal text that we had in there populated automatically. Okay. Again, I could have had other text in here, and I could have clicked all normal, and it would switch it over. We can update, which means to make changes to. I'm going to go ahead and click clear. So now it went back to the red circle with the white checkbox, saying, hey, still nothing is filled out with this. If I click add detail, it takes us to that screen where I was telling you this is what we had done before, right? We had seen that those different fields were in there. We had language in there, but obviously language hasn't been filled out for her, so there is no language that populated. But it automatically took us to the question. We didn't have to double click on it. It just automatically moved us to this one here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and click occasionally. And again, we could have had text before this or after this that helped us understand what occasionally was referring to or whatnot. We could actually type that in right here, right now, if we wanted to. So this is a text box. I mean, not a text box. It's like a miniature word processor. An RTF area where you can come in here and you can type in as much additional text as you want. You could have tons of notes in here instead of just this one. It could be a paragraph that has different notes populated throughout it that you're going through as you're filling things out. So it's just really up to you what you want to do as far as that goes, but it gives you a lot more flexibility from before. So I'm just going to say occasionally has financial problems, since that's what this was this one is supposed to be about. But go ahead and save it. Okay. Again, changed it to the green circle with the white check mark, meaning that there's information filled out. You can see it kind of highlighted it. And if you do that, then it automatically jumps you down to where that is. So again, if a bunch of these are all done and you just want to jump around and look at certain things as opposed to trying to scroll and necessarily find it, you can do that. But again, here's the information that was done. And then there's going to be a little space there. And then there's the stuff that I typed in after the note that we chose from our multiple choice option there. So we'll go ahead and do the CWA as well. You can kind of see how that works. Similar, except that again, this takes us to the table that we already had created. So if we're filling this out here, we can just go, I can just use my arrows here to do this, and I could calculate. It's not calculating the total for me. I'd have to do that myself. I actually don't know what it is, but I'm going to make it up and pretend it was 17. I'm not going to go back and check, and then put in my initials or my name or whatever I wanted to do there. Save it, and again, if we want to click as opposed to going down, here it is, and we can see that. Okay, and again, if we looked at something, we're like, oh, we accidentally did something wrong, or even if something, we noticed the misspelling here on the actual verbiage in the table. Now, we could obviously update that. It's not going to change it back in the template. We'd have to go back and change it in the template, but we could certainly come over here, update it, and say, oh, you know what, I misspelled observation wrong. Let's go ahead and make a quick change in here for now, at least. Maybe I'll make a note, go back in and change it in the actual template or in the actual note setup later. But for now, I'm going to do that. Or again, if you wanted to be more specific and type in a description of what to is or whatnot. Okay. So there's some cool things that you can do as far as that goes. So this is the kind of the new setup of it. Do one more here. So if, for example, what we want to show you here is, there are instances where you might have a section kind of built already with this stuff, and there's text or maybe a table or whatever. And I kind of mentioned that you could type in and do text and stuff like that. That's not all you can do. You can obviously add a note here as well, current date and time. Again, have certain pieces of information from the patient or whatnot populate in here too. So even though it wasn't set up as part of the default section, or you can still pull those things in and use them as one-offs or whatever you need to do as far as that goes. Okay, so you can kind of create that a section specific right now, so make whatever changes to make it more specific for this specific person or for this specific encounter. So some options as far as that goes as well. So that's what we wanted to show you today. For those of you that have seen this before are probably thinking, well, yeah, that is drastically different. That's why, in the little what's it called, the little invite or the little dealer newsletter, we say it's a redesign, because it is very, very much redesigned. It looks very different, although it still allows to pull a lot of the stuff we've already created, which is really cool. Anybody that has notes and questions created already will be able to continue to use those to pull them in wherever they'd like to inside the new section. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to you guys. If you have questions, feel free to type them in. If you would like to raise your hand, I'll see if I can unmute you if that's easier, and we can go that route also. Let's see. Looks like we have a few questions. So I'm going to have to kind of read them as we go along here, and so just bear with me for a second. Oh, yeah, so it looks like on the, let's see, this is a suggestion. So it looks like somebody was asking a question about the claim note in the interactive aging screen. You can add the claim note either on the interactive aging screen or on the tab when you open the claim. So when you open the claim, I showed you where it displayed when you open the claim. You can actually add it there too. So you can add it in either place and it'll show in either place. So wherever you do. So okay, that's a suggestion. I'll have to. These are more suggestions, so that's good. So yeah, feel free to send suggestions. Email them to me, because I'll go ahead and write these on here too. But send me them in an email. It'll be easier for me, because this laptop that I am doing this on is not the one where I have the feature request list. So it'll make it a lot easier if you could just email them over to me. And explain. I might, that way too, it'll be easier, because on my time I can reply back if I don't understand exactly what you're saying, or maybe I can call you or whatever and we can talk about it. But yeah, I want to make sure we get that. Let's see what this one is. Oh, so somebody asked, when's the expected release date? It's at the same time as the dealer event. So that's why we're going to be training and whatnot there. So we hope everybody will be able to make it to that and get the first group of training on that stuff, and get more training obviously than what we'll be able to give, since we got a couple days dedicated to, a day and a half dedicated to training and whatnot. Well, if you sell an upgrade now, and this comes out shortly. If you sell an upgrade now, we'll just give you the next version for free. Generally speaking, the way it works, just so you know, like as a standard procedure here, if you sell an upgrade, just let Melissa know that we said that you'd get the upgrade for free. And yeah, and that's fine, because I understand that. It kind of puts you in a predicament. You sell somebody something now, and a month later it comes out or whatnot. But generally, just our standard procedure is if it comes out within 30 days, afterwards we give it for free. Usually we extend that to 60 days, and actually we're probably about 90 days right now, since the dealer event is 3 months from today. The last day of the dealer event is 3 months from today. But if it's more than it's like 60 to 90 or 30 to 90, we normally do 50% off, and more than that we charge just full price. But we make exceptions to that all the time. That's just kind of our standard, what our standard operating procedures are. So just so you know. But yeah, I mean, you can write that down that I said that. You can get the upgrade for free if you sell somebody an upgrade from this point forward when that comes out. So just so you guys know too, some of you probably don't know this, because originally with the EHR, when we first had it, it was actually 2 separate like installs and whatnot. So somebody would buy the practice management, and then they wanted to add the EHR, they had to install that separately. It's installed on top of it, and it still was just one executable, but the installs were separate and everything. Whereas now, some of you might know this, but it's all one, and it's just based on the registration information. So we don't need to have separate installs. You can take an existing customer, and if they wanted to add the EHR, nothing new has to be installed. All we have to do is get a new serial number and an activation key for them, get it registered, and they'd be off and running. So I don't know the answer to this question. It says, how does the EHR encounter split on page breaks? So I'm told it's the same as like a regular RTF, where it will just break it and put it on another page. So hopefully that answers that question. All right, somebody asked if we could pull up the insurance aging screen again, which I can do that. That open here already. Also, just so you guys know too, I mean, I can show this to you. Anything in particular. So if you want to go over stuff specific to anything that we saw here, just like one-on-one, just let me know. You can call me, and I can do a little private demo with you, or go over some of this stuff. If you have suggestions or you want to kind of think things through or whatnot, let me know, and we could definitely do that. So if that's easier for any of you, yeah, just give me a call or send me an email. We'll set something up. Any other questions? Okay. Oh, just kidding. I thought I was at the end, and I wasn't even close. Oh, I'm just kidding. I guess I was close. Maybe I am done. So at this stage in the game, we've chosen not to do 2015. At this point, so that could certainly change. Our current certification should be good through the end of 2018. But as of right now, we decided, hey, we're going to focus on usability and features in the EHR as opposed to the government stuff. So we'll address that again here. But now that we have through 2018, we wanted to focus on features instead. So yeah, I guess that was the last question. Okay. So yeah, any other questions, let me know. Type them quickly or raise your hand. It's one of those speak now or forever hold your peace. Not really, but for the sake of this today's. But again, like I said, you know what, somebody did raise their hand. Here you go. Okay. Why does that not let me do that? Oh, Okay, Barry, you raised your hand. I unmuted you, but it says that you are self-muted. So you're going to have to unmute yourself if you'd like to. There you go.
So we can't do any of the MIPS or any of that kind of quality measure stuff with this?
So you can't do any of the MIPS or quality measures with this? Is that what you're saying? Yeah, that would be correct.
Correct.
That would be correct. Yeah, nothing built into this is for that at this point. Although that being said, from some of the stuff I've seen related to the MIPS part of stuff, a lot of the stuff you actually could do with it just based on reports that you'd have to do with inside the software. There's a lot I don't know about it, but a lot of the stuff I have seen, actually a lot of the stuff related to MIPS, I've seen are things you can actually do even without an EHR. A bunch of them and can be done just with practice management. Probably not everything, but a lot of it. So.
Correct, and I've done a majority of that. The only problem I had is, at least with the prior version, we could attach a measure number to each of our EHR elements, and now we don't have a measure that we can tie to the element.
Right, that's correct. Yeah, as of right now. Yeah. Good question. Any other questions for anybody, or if anybody else wants to raise their hand? Okay. All right. Well, excellent, guys. I appreciate your time. Thanks for joining me today. Hopefully, we'll get to see you here at the sunny Arizona in October. The weather will be fantastic. We'll have a good time if you can make it. We got some fun activities planned and some great classes. So, like I said before, feel free to reach out to me and we can go over stuff in more detail if you'd like, or if you have specific suggestions, please email them over to me so that I can get them on our feature request list. Thanks, guys. Take care. Bye.